Political financing has been the subject of debate over several years, and unfortunately, no proposal has so far met unanimity across the political spectrum. However, the first concrete attempt in our political history to introduce a political financing bill into the National Assembly to regulate the financing of political parties was made in 2019. In fact, the genesis of this bill can be traced back to December 2015, when government, under the Prime Ministership of late Sir Niru Jagnnath, had set up a ministerial committee to make recommendations on several important aspects of our electoral system. The terms of reference of the ministerial committee were, amongst others, to make proposals on electoral reform with a view to introducing a dose of proportional representation in the National Assembly and proposing a draft financing of political parties bill. The recommendations of the Ministerial Committee, chaired at that time by Minister Mentor, were approved by Government on 30th November 2018. Following a consultation exercise on 2nd July 2019, I myself, as Prime Minister, introduced the Constitution Amendment Bill and the Political Financing Bill in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, the object of the Political Financing Bill was to provide for accountability and transparency with regard to the financing of, inter alia, political parties at a general election with a view to preventing undue influence and corruption. In addition to conferring powers to the Electoral Supervisory Commission and the Electoral Commission to investigate into the financial affairs of registered political parties for the better regulation of political financing, the bill provided for, inter alia, the legal framework for political financing and donations, instances where acceptance of donation would be prohibited, ceiling on expenditure, limitations on donation in kind, and obligations to keep accounting records, as well as sanctions and offences for non-compliance with provisions of that proposed legislation. Given that the political financing bill proposed, in addition to the widening of the functions and powers of the Electoral Supervisory Commission and the Electoral Commissioner, relevant amendments to Section 41 of the Constitution were required. Accordingly, the Constitution Amendment Bill, which aimed at providing additional powers and functions to the ESC and the Electoral Commissioner, was introduced at the same time as the Political Financing Bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also apposite to note that under Clause 12 of the Political Financing Bill, donations from foreign governments, foreign entities, and non-citizens to political parties would not have been allowed and would have been treated as prohibited donations. In fact, according to the database of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, out of 180 countries, 126 have placed some form of ban on donations from foreign governments or foreign individuals. And such countries include the United Kingdom, Singapore, South Africa, Switzerland, the United States, Japan, Norway, Canada, Brazil, and France, amongst others. The main argument behind is to limit the threat of foreign interests undermining a country's democracy. Mr. Speaker, sir, in addition, the political financing bill provided that no person shall make a donation to an individual member of a registered political party other than to the treasurer of that party. Obligations for political parties to keep a register of donations as well as accounting records showing inter alia entries of all donations received and the requirement to submit an audited statement of account to the ESC were also provided therein. Mr. Speaker, sir, regrettably, both bills could not secure a three-quarter majority as required by Section 47(2)(b) of the Constitution, as the opposition parties voted against the enactment of the bills. The rejection of the political financing bill demonstrated the lack of will of the opposition parties to promote a culture of transparency and integrity in the political arena. In fact, after the rejection of the Constitution Amendment Bill 2018, this turned out to be the second time that the opposition boycotted prominent attempts at electoral reform. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to point out that although the opposition parties had commissioned a few reports on electoral reform when they were in government, they never walked the talk. Moreover, none of their reports addressed the issue of political financing. Let me cite a few examples. Neither the Carcassonne report, which was released in 2011, nor the Sitanen report, published in January 2012, dealt with the issue of political financing. Similarly, the consultation paper on electoral reform, which was presented by the then Prime Minister in March 2014, overlooked that issue. Reports that examine political financing are the Sachs Commission report of 2002 and the Select Committee set up in 2002 under the chair of Mr. Emmanuel Jiangxing on funding of political parties. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part A of the question, I wish to highlight that since November 2019, I'm heading a new government with new political partners, and we will be holding consultations on the electoral reform which the government would wish to bring about, including political financing. Once the government comes up with a proposal and formula for the financing of political parties, consultations would be held with the Electoral Supervisory Commission, the Electoral Commissioner, and other relevant stakeholders, and the bill would be introduced in the National Assembly in due course. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regards Part B of the question, I wish to highlight that to date, there is no provision in our electoral legislation which prohibits receiving donations from foreign sources. Rather, we have limits on electoral expenses under Part 4 sections 49 to 57 of the Representation of the People Act in regard to election expenses incurred by candidates at an election. Mr. Speaker, sir, however, with regard to acceptance of cash donations, whether from local or foreign sources, any person who makes or accepts any payment in cash in excess of 500,000 rupees or an equivalent amount in foreign currency, or such amount as may be prescribed, shall commit an offence under the Financial Intelligence and Anti-Money Laundering Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, furthermore, it would constitute an offence under the Customs Act and the Customs Regulations 1989 if a person, whether incoming, outgoing, or in transit, makes a physical cross-border transportation of, amongst others, currency of an amount of more than 500,000 Mauritian rupees or its equivalent in foreign currency without making a declaration to customs, so as to be in conformity with the customs legislation. Such person should submit the relevant declaration form to the customs or make an online declaration through the MRA website.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Honourable Prime Minister mentioned about the December 2015, where there was the setting up of a ministerial committee on the electoral reform. Can the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House whether the said committee submitted any report on the issue of financial or political parties? And if yes, whether the contents of the said report were taken on board in the preparation of the political financing bill, which was introduced into the House in 2019. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, I can recall that, in fact, initially, the committee was set up under the chair of Honorable Xavier Duval when he was in government. Let me, I don't know whether I have the information. So it was set up in December 2015, and it had in fact submitted a report on the financing of political parties in April 2016. And the report, however, was very scanty and was lacking in important details, so that the Attorney General's office was unable to prepare a bill. I am informed that the Attorney General's office consequently had raised a series of questions and issues which had to be addressed before they could even start preparing the bill. And amongst the issues that were raised were the following: the scope of the additional powers which had to be given to the Electoral Supervisory Commission, the transparency and disclosure rules that would apply to private funding, the applicability to political donations of the provisions of the Prevention of Corruption Act and the Financial Intelligence and Anti-Money Laundering Act that had to be clearly set out. Consultations also with the Rodrigues Regional Assembly on the proposed new expenditure thresholds in relation particularly to the Rodrigues Regional Assembly elections, and the absence of indication about the type of sanctions that would apply in case of any breach of the law. So all these issues, Mr. Speaker, sir, had not been addressed by the then Deputy Prime Minister in his report. So following the departure of the then Deputy Prime Minister from government, the newly constituted ministerial committee under the chair of Minister Mentor, re-examine all those issues, and particularly those that were raised by the State Law Office, and therefore made appropriate recommendations that were taken on board in the preparation of the 2019 bill. Yep.
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister. Referring to the second part of my question again, has the Honourable Prime Minister taken cognizance of statement made by the former Prime Minister on Friday 10th of March on a private radio, whereby he confirmed that he received a donation from foreign sources, dollar notes, sealed packets? If yes, can the Honourable Prime Minister inform whether the former Prime Minister has complied with the law? Thank you.
Well, let me check. I have also requested a transcript of what was said at this interview. There were, of course, different comments that were made by the former Prime Minister with regard to this particular issue at a broadcast by a private radio. And we know that there were dollar notes in sealed packets that had been found in his coffer. Out of a total of $3.16 million, $1.7 million were in sealed plastic bags and were serially numbered. And although the latter confirmed that he had received those dollars from foreign sources, he has still not yet revealed those sources. And concerning the second part of the question, from the interview given by the former Prime Minister, it is, I must say, it is obvious when I read this transcript that those dollars were not declared, because, let me remind the House again, according to Section 131A of the Customs Act, there is an obligation to declare any amount of funds entering or leaving Mauritius in excess of 500,000 rupees. So I note in that interview, he carefully replies by saying that he had no choice, in fact, because the law is there, he could not abide by the law, and he had no choice than not to abide by the law. This is really fantastic. Amazing, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House if any political parties in recent years have obtained donations from companies operating a Ponzi scheme? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, the House and the nation know fully well the presence of a huge Ponzi scheme being operated by BAI was mentioned, in fact, for the very first time in this House by no one else than Honorable Paul Béranger when he addressed a PNQ in his capacity as the then leader of the opposition. On the 21st of November 2013, to the then Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the then leader of the opposition stated, and I quote, "The whole financial system was based on an insurance makeup built on a huge Ponzi scheme," unquote. However, we also know that after concluding an alliance with the Labour Party for the 2014 general elections, the MMM, led by Honorable Paul Béranger, accepted a cheque of 10 million rupees dated the 6th of November 2014 as donation from the same BAI that he accused of running a huge Ponzi scheme.
Honourable Prime Minister, properly, can you repeat the amount that was given to that party? Honourable Prime Minister?
In this case, I said 10 million rupees through a cheque.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister, I think he will recollect that one of the fundamental contentions was about public funding of political parties. We were very near a consensus to have a majority in the House, and the question was whether we can have public funding together with private funding, as is the case in France and elsewhere, even if we could do it symbolically. So may I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether the position of the MSM is still not to consider public funding, and I would also ask him whether this bill, which is to come, whether he can give us a time frame for its presentation in the House.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the honourable member will recall, of course, that the original draft had included a recommendation for funding, for public funding. And then, through consultations, he will recall that we decided at that time that we would not be moving for public funding because some members of the opposition had already taken a stand against public funding. I don't wish to the honourable member will recall there was a campaign that had started in public to say that, well, why is it that now government should start funding political parties? So we said, let us move step by step. And this is why we limited the proposal to financing by the private parties. Now, the honourable member will recall he was also part in the committee. He was also a member of the government, and he also took part in the debate, and he also defended that bill and voted, in fact, for the bill. And I'm happy that. But I hope you have not changed your mind today because you are in the opposition, right? So yes, we will, of course, as I have stated, Mr. Speaker, sir, now it is not the same government because we have other members also. Well, first of all, other partners in alliance, and then there are other members also in government. We will be holding those consultations, and then we will hold also consultations with members of the opposition, of course, and public at large also, so that we could, I hope, this time we can rally a consensus, because I think it is high time that we put our ego on the side and come up with a regulation, with a bill, so that we can regulate the financing of political parties.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Honourable Prime Minister state whether there was any mention of a political financing bill prior to 2014?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, from the records available, I'm informed as follows. In the Sachs report on electoral reform of 2002, the creation of a political activities public financing fund was proposed. And the Sachs Commission also came up with a draft bill on political funding. The 2004 Yangxing report was in fact on funding of political parties and included also a draft bill on political financing. In the 2011 Carcassonne report on electoral reform, there was no mention of political funding. The Sitanen report on electoral reform of January 2012 also did not make any mention of political funding. There was also no mention on political financing in the consultation paper on electoral reform of March 2014, and in the government program 2005-2010 there was no specific mention of political financing. The government program of 2012-2015 refers, in fact, barely to the financing of political parties. The government program of 2015-2019, of course, clearly mentions financing of political parties legislation, and government, in fact, did come up, as I say, with a political financing bill. And in the government program 2020-2024 does mention that a new bill on the financing of political parties will be introduced in the National Assembly.
For the sake of transparency, since we are talking about financing of political parties, is the Honourable Prime Minister prepared to table a list of all donors to the MSM, including Mr. Lishim, who said he had paid him 10 million rupees.
Mr.
And Mr. Lishim, he said that on radio, that he paid you 10 million rupees, and a list of all donors who enable you to construct Sun's.
Honourable Member, don't mention the name of people.
Can you give a list of all donors which enable the MSM to build the Sun Trust, and a list of all donors who financed your campaign last year?
And what about all the donors which have provided financially substantial amount to the MMM? And we are proud. We have received donations from the private sector. We have a headquarters for the party. Your party, you have received donations. I can wonder whether who has pocketed this amount. You don't even have a headquarters. What are you talking about? And if you want a list, we all know apart from pocketing. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir? The leader of that party, il dénonce, laissez-moi peut-être parler en français pour qu'ils comprennent un peu mieux ce que j'ai dit avant, il dénonce la BAI d'opérer un Ponzi scheme. Hein? Imaginez, et puis, tout d'un coup, lorsqu'il fait l'alliance avec le Parti travailliste, il accepte un chèque de 10 millions de roupies de ce Ponzi scheme. Comment vous pouvez qualifier cela? Et en plus, qui ne sait pas que monsieur G, que vous connaissez, vous parlez des courses, parlez de l'argent que vous avez reçu des gens, des bookmakers. Hein? Pourquoi vous ne parlez pas de l'argent que vous avez reçu de la mafia de courses avec certains que je ne nommerai pas, et qui ne sait pas, une autre personnalité, Monsieur G, qui, je ne sais pas s'il est un membre de votre parti, en tout cas, il a collaboré à l'élaboration de votre programme gouvernemental. Ça, on le sait. Il a participé à plusieurs réunions, dont des réunions à Rivière-Noire. Il a participé, il a aidé à la campagne du MMM. Oui, mais je vous pose la question, allez demander à votre leader comment il a financé le MMM. Allez demander à votre leader, votre leader n'est pas là aujourd'hui, regardez derrière vous, demandez à l'honorable Amiemia comment il a financé. L'honorable Amiemia pourrait vous dire.
Nakchadi, last question.
Mr. Speaker.
On the point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my name has been mentioned by the Prime Minister. Speaker, what's going on in his house? Let me make my point. Mr. Speaker, let me make...
Both sides of the House, order. Make your point.
I can assure the House, including the Prime Minister, but whatever donation that the MMM has received, and I will ask the Honourable Prime Minister if he can bring a law with backdated effect 7 years or 10 years. For all parties concerned, we, the MMM, shall deposit our bank statement in this house. Shall deposit our bank statement in this house.
Please. Order. This is not a point of order, but I allowed you to make your case. Okay? So, last question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In his reply, the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned that he is coming with a bill in due course, and now we have heard of donations, pocketing, and everything. So can the Honorable Prime Minister inform the House if in the bill that he intends to bring in this House, if there will be any provisions to prevent political leaders, like we have seen in the past, taking the donation money and keeping it in their personal safe together with the tablets and pills?
Well, this is the very purpose why we want to, on our side, on this side of the House, we want to regulate the financing of political parties, because it has become public knowledge that we have a former Prime Minister who has been, in fact, not only, using political party funds for his own use also. He has also drawn from the official bank account of a political party to transfer some.
Standing orders do not allow any member to make accusations against members or people who are not within this assembly. On top of it, the Honorable Prime Minister knows very well that whatever he's saying are gratuitous allegations for matters that have never been proved before any court of law. Therefore, he is himself passing judgment against a party who is not present here. That would be in violation of fairness, which the Honorable Prime Minister, as a legal person, should know better than everyone else. So therefore, I appeal to you, sir, and the Honorable Prime Minister, since we are all wishing to be very fair in our approach, not to proceed along that line. I'm being very fair.
May I reply, Mr. Speaker, sir? Is it not public knowledge that a coffer was seized at the residence of the former Prime Minister, and that in that coffer or those coffers there had been loads of foreign currencies and Mauritian rupees, and it was assisted, if I can remind you, by your late father, who himself said,
It's not to give you an explanation.
Wait, don't give me orders. I know what I'm doing. I listen to your point of view. Please continue.
Who made a comment to say that mo pa capable faire miracle. Mo pa capable défendre les défendables. Mo pa capable faire miracle. So what I'm saying is already known to the public, Mr. Speaker, sir. There is nothing, I'm not making any accusation against anyone. Yeah, these are facts. These are facts.
I listened carefully to your point of order. The Prime Minister had the opportunity of giving his point, and I will rule on that at a later stage. Okay? So now time is over, and Honorable Mohammed.
Yeah, B124.
Before we move to PQ time, let me announce that PQ B117, B113 have been withdrawn. Now you may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I will reply to PQ B124 and B174 together as they relate to the same subject matter. I am informed by the Waste Management Authority that the Montagne Jaco wastewater treatment plant located at Pointe de Sable was commissioned in 2007 mainly to cater for industrial effluent and municipal wastewater coming from the regions of Western Port-Louis, Grande Rivière, Coromandel, Pointe-aux-Sables, and La Tour-Quénic. The plant is designed to treat 48,000 meter cube of wastewater daily with an average flow of 36,000 meter cube per day and to use advanced primary and sludge treatment. Mr. Speaker, sir, the plant has been in operation for the last 15 years and the electromechanical equipment have undergone major wear and tear and have exceeded service life in some cases, mainly due to being in contact with industrial wastewaters and environmental conditions. The current treatment process includes screening, followed by partial sludge removal in a contact tank. The sludge from the contact tank is then carted away. The effluent is discharged in the ocean at a distance of 835 meters and at a depth of 35 meters below sea level. I am informed that the effluent discharge meets ocean discharge standard. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am further informed by the Wastewater Management Authority that the following faults were reported in 2018 in respect of which remedial works have been / are being undertaken. First, the chemical building of the water line. Second, the sludge system of the sludge line. And third, the sludge dewatering system. The remaining components of the system are operational. For years 2020, 2021 and 2022, despite the non-operation of certain electromechanical equipment at the Montagne-Jacot wastewater treatment plant, the preliminary treatment has proved its efficiency as test results have demonstrated more than 99% percentile compliance to ocean discharge parameters. Mr. Speaker, sir, upon detection of the faults, the Wastewater Management Authority has enlisted the services of consultant Veolia Mauritius Limited in 2018 following a bidding exercise for the refurbishment and improvement of the operation and maintenance of Montagne-Jacot wastewater treatment plant. The consultant submitted its report in 2019 and recommended the upgrading of equipment and infrastructure through a refurbishment plan in 4 phases. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that action has been initiated accordingly and works have been ongoing on several fronts following the submission of the refurbishment plan. I wish to outline the following main measures taken. A. Civil works in an amount of 6 million rupees and odor abatement works amounting to 4.5 million rupees have been successfully completed during financial year 2020-2021. B. Refurbishment works at inlet works and primary clarifiers are ongoing under a contract awarded in April 2022 for a sum of 20.48 million rupees. Works are expected to be completed by end of April 2023. C. Works with regard to sludge re-engineering have started in December 2022 and are expected to be completed in August 2023. D, a bidding exercise for the sludge dewatering units will be launched in May 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to reassure the House that necessary action is being taken by the Wastewater Management Authority to refurbish and upgrade Montagne-Jacot wastewater treatment plant while maintaining all environmental norms. It is also worthy to highlight that for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022, the test results of effluent discharge affected by the accredited Wastewater Management Authority lab, which is certified to ISO standards, have been compliant with standards for ocean discharge. Furthermore, the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping, in the last lagoonal monitoring report, have not reported any non-compliance in seawater quality at the sea outfall of the Montagne-Jacot wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Speaker, sir, in addition to the above, I am tabling the test results from Quantilab, an accredited independent laboratory in respect of such parameters as biochemical oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, as well as total suspended solids on a sample of treated effluent taken on 30th March 2023. It will be noted that all the parameters are well within acceptable limits and are in compliance with the standards of effluent discharge in the ocean regulation made under the Environment Protection Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I know the Honourable Minister went for a visit yesterday for about 1 hour, and he confirmed to the House that the plant is not operational efficiently since 2018. Can I ask him whether the electromechanical equipment that he referred to in his reply is in fact the clarifiers, without which, if they are not functional, no cakes, sludge cakes are produced, those same cakes that were disposed to Marchicos, and without this also, no chlorination of effluent water is done before discharge to the sea as part of the cleaning process. And as a result of this, the damage to the environment over the period of 5 years could be worse than a silent wakasho.
Not at all, Mr. Speaker, sir. Yes, I visited the site yesterday because I wanted to take stock of the situation before replying to the questions put to me by the two honourable members. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, I've been very transparent in my reply, and I've given reports that I have in my possession with regard to tests that have been carried out by the Wastewater Management Authority, by an independent lab, by the Ministry of Environment, and also by the Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping. And all the tests that have been carried out have confirmed that the results are in compliance with the standards for effluent discharge into the ocean, that is under the Environment Protection Act. I have the figures with me, and I'm very comfortable with the figures that I have in my possession, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I've tabled the results of tests carried out by an independent lab on the 30th of March, which confirms what I'm saying. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Dans un statement fait il y a 2 ans par le ministre des Utilités publiques, c'était le 30 mars 2021, suite à un point que j'avais soulevé à l'ajournement. Le ministre avait indiqué qu'il s'agissait effectivement d'un déversement d'eau usée non traitée en mer en raison d'une situation d'urgence qui était due à des travaux à la station de pompage de Pointe-Sable, qui, je le rappelle, se situe à un endroit différent de la station de traitement de Montagne-Jacot. À la lumière de la visite en mer que je dois dire que l'honorable Ousmane Mohamed et moi-même avons effectuée il y a quelques jours, est-ce que le ministre souhaiterait revenir sur la déclaration qu'il a faite à la Chambre il y a 2 ans?
Non, pas du tout. Pourquoi? Je ne comprends pas. Pourquoi je dois retourner sur ce que j'avais dit à cette Chambre? What I said is correct. I don't need to amend anything because don't mix issues. We are talking of 2 different facilities. One located at Pointe-Sable, which is no more discharging water in the ocean, and Montagne-Jacot, where we are still discharging water in the ocean.
Yes.
You should get information right before putting question in this House.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm quite puzzled by the fact that the main electromechanical facility there, which is the clarifier, is not working properly, it is faulty, and the minister is saying that the water is deemed fit to be thrown to the sea. I'm quite puzzled by this.
I'm not at all puzzled.
Can I ask
have
him?
Results with me. My results confirm what I'm saying. You can check the results. Then if you are puzzled, then I'll understand.
There is foul smell at sea, firstly. Can I ask the minister whether, being given that we are talking about 36,000 meter cube of water over a period of 5 years, containing untreated industrial effluent, containing raw sugar that has been thrown into the sea, whether divers can be sent down to examine the repercussion of this on the fauna and flora down there?
No, we don't need to send divers, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have, entities that can look after what you're saying. I said, I confirm here in this House that there have been regular checks by the bodies concerned, that is the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Blue Economy, by independent lab to test the quality of the water. And I've stated that the quality of the water meets effluent discharge under the Environment Protection Act. What do we need more?
Then we can, if you say you're happy with the results, Honourable Minister, we can leave the situation as it is. You don't need to do all the work that you've done.
This is not
I'm saying you're going to do.
No, we cannot.
Okay.
No,
move to next question, Minister, please. Move to next question, where we reach. I believe question B1 to 3 has been withdrawn. Now we move to question, Honourable Fourth Member of Port-Louis Maritime and Port-Louis, Honourable Juman.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I would reply to PQ B126 and PQ B193 at the same time. I'm seizing this opportunity to provide the House with a chronological order of events with regard to the setting up of the temporary committee of the Mauritius Football Association, MFA, and ultimately to its dissolution sometime later, following concerns raised by the Mauritius Olympic Committee, MOC. As far back as August 2021, my ministry informed the MFA that following grievances received at my ministry regarding the prevailing situation at the MFA with regard to good governance issues, my ministry decided to withhold all support to the MFA. Furthermore, upon request from my ministry, the MFA failed to submit a comprehensive action plan to develop football in Mauritius. Despite all the efforts made by my ministry and meetings held with the MFA, it was observed that the situation had not improved with respect to governance issues, while Section 5 of the Sports Act 2016 stipulates, inter alia, that every national sports federation shall uphold and operate on the principles of good governance, transparency, democracy, fairness, and non-discrimination. In addition, the Registrar of Associations, ROA, also requested the MFA to apply for the registration of the amendment of its rules, failing which action would be initiated against the MFA under Section 15(1)(c) of the ROA Act, which deals with the cancellation of the registration of associations. In a late letter dated 28 December 2022, which the ROA addressed to the MFA and copied to my ministry, the ROA informed that the complete amended MFA rules could not be registered owing to shortcomings identified therein. Despite various working sessions that the ROA had with the MFA, the latter still failed to remedy these shortcomings. On Friday, 24 February 2023, I had a phone conversation personally with the President of the Mauritius Olympic Committee, MOC, to inform him of the above issues being encountered with the MFA and that there was a likelihood to favor the setting up of a temporary committee for the MFA, as a measure of last resort to avoid the deregistration of the MFA by the ROA as the National Federation for Football. On Monday, 27 February 2023, the MOC was invited to participate in a consultative meeting chaired by the Permanent Secretary of my ministry regarding the proposal for the setting up of a temporary committee. The MOC delegated its Assistant Secretary to attend the said meeting. In the light of the above and pursuant to Section 9(9) of the Sports Act, on 2nd March 2023, the Permanent Secretary of my ministry dissolved the Managing Committee of the MFA and set up a temporary committee of the MFA whose mandate was, inter alia, to amend the rules of the Mauritius Football Association with a view to aligning them with the provisions of the Sports Act 2016. As was the case for past temporary committees, for example, judo and boxing, set up by my ministry for an Olympic sport disciplines, it was decided to invite the MOC to delegate a representative to form part of the temporary committee. Another consultative meeting scheduled for Friday, 3rd March 2023 by my ministry with the MOC could not be held due to the unavailability of its president. Another meeting scheduled with the MOC for Monday, 6 March 2023 did not materialize. In a late letter dated 5th March 2023, the MOC informed that following a meeting of its extraordinary executive committee, all its members agreed unanimously not to participate in that meeting scheduled for 6 March 2023. During the course of another consultative meeting held on Tuesday, 7 March 2023, the representatives of the MOC raised with officers of my ministry several points of concern relating namely to little a, the possibility of FIFA banning Mauritius in international football competitions, and in the eventuality of the MFA becoming compliant to local legislation, reaffiliation to the FIFA might still be problematic if MFA failed to respect the rules of its international federation, and little b, the eventuality of the International Olympic Committee applying international sanctions against Mauritius in all sports disciplines might be a reality. The representatives of the MOC thus made an appeal to my ministry to reconsider its position regarding the temporary committee and to find a solution acceptable to all the parties concerned. The representatives of the MOC reiterated their concerns during a meeting held under my chairmanship on 13 March 2023. In a letter dated 14 March 2023, the MOC expressly stated their concerns about the possible suspension of Mauritius from all Olympic sports disciplines and proposed that the Sports Act 2016 be reviewed. In this context, and taking into consideration that many of our athletes are actively preparing to participate in several forthcoming regional and international competitions, namely the Indian Ocean Islands Games, Francophonie Games, Youth Commonwealth Games, All Africa Games, Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games, my ministry could not afford to take the risk of an international suspension in all Olympic sports disciplines. On 17 March 2023, a decision was therefore taken to dissolve the temporary committee of the MFA and to reinstate the managing committee of the MFA. 2 weeks ago, my ministry has had preliminary consultations with the national sports federations dealing with team sports, where they made several proposals regarding amendments to be brought to the Sports Act 2016. Their proposals are now being examined and legal advice will be sought accordingly. I would like to inform the House that no correspondence was exchanged between my ministry and the FIFA in relation to the temporary committee. As for the correspondences exchanged with the MOC, the latter has been consulted and has no objection to same being tabled. Mr. Speaker, sir, since the football season 2022-2023 is nearing its completion by this week, the issue of allocating grants to the football clubs does not arise. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 31st March 2023, my ministry had already informed the MFA that my ministry has no objection to the MFA using stadiums falling under our purview for training by clubs and competitions to be organized by the MFA. Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I'm hereby tabling a series of correspondences exchanged between my ministry and the MOC in relation to the temporary committee of the MFA. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, you just said there was consultation with the MOC. And as per Sports Act Section 9C2, where appropriate, after consultation with the MOC, a temporary committee to manage the affairs of the Federation. Honourable Minister, can you inform the House whether a correspondence was sent to the MOC to invite them for consultation, and when the consultation was held, and the outcome?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I will repeat two items of my main reply. where I said on Friday, 24 February 2023, firstly, I had a conversation personally with the president of the Mauritius Olympic Committee to inform him that we are about to set up the temporary committee. On Monday, 27 February 2023, the MOC was invited to participate in a consultative meeting chaired by the permanent secretary of my ministry. The Mauritius Olympic Committee delegated its assistant secretary to attend the said meeting.
Monsieur le Président, ce n'est un secret pour personne que le niveau de notre football à Maurice est au plus bas, alors que d'autres pays de la région progressent à pas de géant. Puisque la MFA a failli dans sa tâche, l'honorable Toussaint, en tant que ministre des Sports, peut-il nous dire ce qu'il préconise afin que notre football retrouve son lustre d'antan?
Monsieur le Président, je suis entièrement d'accord avec l'honorable membre que c'est vrai que nous avons un souci au niveau de notre football, puisque ça fait assez longtemps que nous n'avons pas remporté de victoire dans différentes compétitions régionales ou africaines. Récemment, les jeunes ont fait montre un peu de leur qualité en ce qu'il s'agit de futsal, les filles aussi. Et nous avions demandé à la MFA, j'ai dit ça quelque part dans ma réponse, de venir de l'avant avec un plan pour revoir notre football et un plan sur le long terme. Hein. Je prends l'exemple de l'équipe de France qui avait remporté la Coupe du Monde en 1998. Ce n'est qu'en 2018 qu'ils ont re-remporté la Coupe du Monde. Cela veut dire cela leur a pris 20 ans après leur première victoire pour remporter encore une fois la Coupe du Monde. Donc nous avons demandé à la MFA un plan long terme, 10, 15, 20 ans par rapport à notre football. Ils sont venus de l'avant avec une proposition que les techniciens de mon ministère ont examinée et nous ne sommes toujours pas satisfaits avec ce qu'ils ont proposé. Certainement, nous allons continuer ce genre de rencontres et ce genre de dialogue jusqu'à ce que les deux parties, que ce soit la MFA, le ministère et aussi les clubs, allons dire un peu tous ceux concernés par le monde du football, nous soyons d'accord que ce plan qui viendra va nous emmener vers des sommets, vers des résultats un peu plus glorieux. Restez rassurés, Monsieur le Président, donc nous allons travailler et nous allons continuer à mettre la pression sur la MFA pour qu'ils reviennent avec quelque chose de plus réalisable.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Est-ce que le ministre peut nous confirmer la visite prochaine du président de la FIFA à Maurice? Merci.
Monsieur le Président, même si la question de l'honorable membre ne fait pas partie de la question principale, oui, il y a eu une correspondance, je ne sais pas dire oui qu'il vient là, oui, il y a eu une correspondance de la part de la MFA nous informant que le président de la FIFA ferait une visite à Maurice. Cependant, de mémoire, hier, nous avons reçu une autre correspondance de la part de la MFA nous faisant part que, à Diane, le président de la FIFA ne viendrait pas à Maurice.
Monsieur le Président, la possibilité que le Sports Act 2016 soit amendé afin d'offrir un statut spécial à la MFA par rapport à l'organisation de l'élection de son comité exécutif a été évoquée dans les médias et ailleurs. Le ministre, de ce fait, peut-il nous dire si son ministère compte aller dans cette direction et quel est désormais le statut officiel de la MFA auprès de son ministère?
Monsieur le Président, donc je répète ce qui a été dit dans ma réponse. Nous avons tenu des réunions avec les fédérations, toutes les fédérations, team sport comme on dit, donc basketball, handball, etc. Parce que nous voulions entendre de la part de ces autres fédérations si eux aussi, il y a un souci par rapport à notre Sports Act. Et donc, éventuellement, s'il y a amendement, ce serait pour tous ces team sports. Ce ne serait pas nécessairement un amendement spécialement pour le football. Nous continuons à travailler et comme je l'ai dit dans ma réponse, il y a eu des consultations qui ont été faites et il y a eu des propositions qui sont revenues vers nous au ministère et maintenant les techniciens sont en train de mettre un peu d'ordre dedans et éventuellement, donc ce sera aux personnes légales, c'est-à-dire le SLE, de venir nous guider quels sont les amendements que nous pouvons apporter.
Last question.
Honourable Minister, you mentioned the President of FIFA is not coming to Mauritius. In a correspondence sent to the MFA and to your ministry also, they said the FIFA President will not travel to Mauritius due to the late answer from your ministry. And Honourable Minister, in a letter addressed to the MFA by the FIFA on the 8th of March, despite many attempts the MFA and the FIFA made to seek dialogue with the ministry in order to find a constructive solution, which you mentioned earlier, that would be acceptable to all parties concerned. In this respect, we note from FIFA that our letter dated 20th of December 2022 addressed to the Minister and the PS has so far remained unanswered. So, Minister, which is which? You want to engage dialogue with FIFA and MFA and you're not responding positively to meet them and discuss. Which is which?
Monsieur le Président, donc je vais essayer de répondre à deux questions dans une question. Premièrement, je n'ai pas la lettre de la MFA avec moi là. Et certainement, je ne pense pas que nous avons voulu expressément répondre de façon tardive à la MFA. Nous aurions bien souhaité avoir le président de la FIFA ici à Maurice pour que, au moins, les clubs qui ont beaucoup de choses à en redire puissent le rencontrer et emmener leur doléance directement à celui qui dirige cette belle discipline. Si pour X raison le président ne vient pas, let's hope que very soon he will be able to make a visit to Mauritius so that all parties concerned would be able to voice out what they have to say about our local football. Je ne sais pas si je me trompe, veuillez m'excuser en avance, Monsieur le Président, mais je sens dans la voix de l'honorablement, j'entends comme un genre de plaidoyer envers la MFA. J'espère que je me trompe. Il y a eu beaucoup de correspondances qui ont été envoyées depuis belle lurette, Monsieur le Président. Je n'ai malheureusement pas toutes ces correspondances avec moi. Depuis belle lurette, depuis 2021, si je ne me trompe pas, moi-même personnellement, j'ai déjà eu une conversation téléphonique avec le responsable de la région Afrique pour expliquer les soucis qu'il y a actuellement dans notre football local et pour inviter les personnes concernées à venir. Il y avait récemment, donc l'année dernière, il me semble, il y avait deux responsables de la FIFA FIFA Afrique qui étaient à Maurice, qui ont rencontré le directeur des sports, qui a expliqué tous les problèmes que nous sommes en train d'avoir. Mais malheureusement, du côté de la FIFA, the answer was only one-sided. Alors, n'essayez pas de venir jeter la pierre sur moi, s'il vous plaît. Merci.
Remember, the House advised that PQB 1 order. PQB 188, 185, 153, 141, 151, 184, 197, 158, 187, 202, B156, and B125 have been withdrawn. At this stage, honourable members, I'll suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.